Here we go. Look at
Welcome
Pamela
to
go.
Read My Lips Radio, a lively hour of unscripted conversations with savvy creatives.
You.
Producer and host,
That's
aka
me.
Radio Red, asks novelists, artists, photographers, designers, comedians, actors, musicians, composers, screenwriters, directors,
I talk to
and
a lot of
technology
people.
innovators about their creative passion, inspirational muses, and how they create. Ooh, how those lips can talk. Now, here's aka Radio Red.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here. It's Monday. Where else would I be? I'm AKA Radio Red. Happy and delighted. This is my little corner of the world on Monday afternoon. It is now 5:02 p.m. Eastern Time in the U.S., wherever you are. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I have a wonderful panel of three creatives, and it just so happens that each of them have the title of doctor, but for different reasons. So I'm calling this episode The Prescriptions for Creativity because I couldn't think of anything more. I have to come up with a different title for the episode every week. You understand, Dean? So I just said to myself, well, my goodness, because Vicky got in touch with me and she said, well, I'm a doctor too. It wasn't in your bio. I said, okay, then we got three doctors. We got to do that. So, and Pamela said, I'm the doctor of creativity. So thank you very much. Before I introduce the three of you, I have some breaking news here. It's February 9th, and my goodness gracious, we have some famous birthdays. First of all, it's the 40th day of the year, Gregorian calendar. Julian forgot most of the first 2 weeks of October. Shame on him. So Gregorian came around and said, okay, every 4 years we add a day. We call it a leap year, and October can get your birthdays back. If I'd have been alive then, Dean, that would have impacted me. So thank you to Gregorian. 325 days left. What? In the year, sixth Monday of the year. Don't worry about New Year's Eve yet. We're still in the zodiac of Aquarius. My goodness gracious, but barely. Okay, today is the birthday of Carole King. You know, you've got a friend and Tapestry and oh, those wonderful. She's 84. Did you see her on the Grammys last week? She looks good. Joe Pesci, my cousin Vinny, good fella. He's 83. What's going on in the world here? Alice Walker, who wrote The Color Purple, is 82. I'm doing this in age order here. Mia Farrow. Does anybody remember her on Peyton Place besides me before she married Frank Sinatra and Andre Previn and all of those good people and Woody and all? We won't go into that. She's 81. Judith Light. Who's the boss? Ugly Betty, Transparent. She was great in Transparent. She's 77. And Michael B. Jordan from Creed and Black Panther. Well, he's the baby. He's 39. So happy birthday to all of those. And I want you all to know today is Bagel and Lox Day, but it's also Pizza Day. So you can pick how you get your carbs, pizza or just have the bagel with the pizza. And people make bagels into pizza. So there you go. It's also Clean Out Your Computer Day, and it's Read in the Bathtub Day. But I do not recommend taking the computer, Vicky, into the bathtub to read. So I just would recommend that. So here we go. I'm going to start introducing all of you. And when I call your name, I'll call your name a couple of times. Just wave hello. So here we go. Welcome to the Creativity Show where cool ideas take flight. I can see them going up right now. AKA Radio Red on her Scarlett Mic streaming live. Yep. Right. The prescriptions for creativity set the tone this year. It's still February, I can say that, where challenges meet passion and bold ideas appear. I see them now. Dr. Dean Rudoy, say hello.
Hello.
Dr. Pamela Prince Pyle, say hello. And Dr. Victoria Vaughn, say hello. They're joining me today. Three seasoned creatives with, I had to put this one in, healthy insights to convey because of the doctor thing. Our roundtable explores imagination, purpose, and drive, innovation and reinvention, helping big dreams thrive. Now, here we go. Dean, you're first. In Oshkosh, Wisconsin, where Midwest stories start, Dean arrived with 2 birthmarks and a thoughtful heart. Called a changeling at birth, a soul set apart, yet he's always felt kinship with each and every human heart. I used heart twice, sorry about that. A scholar and an athlete, a leader from the start, from safety patrol to speeches that inspired the art. Then Capitol Hill called, Dean, Dean, but politics didn't stay, so psychology became the compass to light Dean's way. From desert classrooms to stories he's now free to share, guided by giving, compassion, and care. Author of Emissaries, his reflections ring true. Dr. Dean is sharing creative wisdom today with you. Dean, I hope you like that.
Oh, I blush.
Oh,
I blush. That's
Blush, just
so
don't
beautiful.
cry. Just don't cry. I'm up to Pamela now. Thank you. Pamela, from humble roots in Oklahoma, where hardship shaped her start, young Pamela learned resilience deep within her heart. From cinder blocks and cold nights to dreams she held tight, valedictorian strength launched her lifelong fight. A dentist saw her brilliance and urged her to try, so she began night school as her hopes reached for the sky. A single mom in med school, so determined and brave, she graduated near the top, launching the future that she gave. From treating thousands in Rwanda to developing their light, Pamela's mission brings hope and compassion always bright. Author of Anticipating Heaven, her message shines through. Dr. Pamela's sharing creative tip. Let me do that one again. Dr. Pamela's sharing creativity, hope with each and every one of you. Okay, Pamela.
oh,
Sorry for the upset the last line. I got all
this
controlled.
is like, I've never had a poem written about me. So thank you.
You're welcome. And now it's Victoria's. I'm going to call you Victoria formally and then Vicky as well. In Fort Worth, Texas, where strong roots were grown, Vicky learned independence and courage of her own. Through life's winding roads and love's highs and lows, she gathered the wisdom that experience bestows. Degrees were earned while working and raising her crew, a scholar and a leader with persistence shining through. From classrooms to boardrooms, Vicky's career took flight, guiding students and teams toward futures so bright. Through laughter and loss, her memoir came true. A story of frogs she kissed before love could renew. Author and storyteller with warmth to pursue, Dr. Vicky's here sharing creative joy with each of you. Vicky, I hope you like that.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you so much.
I'm glad you're welcome. Let me close. So gather round where the cool vibes and the cool kids sway as we dive deep into creativity today. Radio Red's energy lights the way. I think the sun is not on my face anymore. We hope to inspire you to live large, love life, and play. So, kids, how did I do?
Lovely.
Oh, wonderful.
Unbelievable.
Good. Okay. Well, I do have a
Memorable.
collaborator, and her name is Sylvie, and we speak in French a lot, and she helps me with the rhymes. I don't call these poems, I call them rhyming bios, rhyming intros. And that's why I no longer ask people for CVs or bios. I ask for origin stories because I want to know who you are, where you come from, what
I love
shaped you, what molded you. That's why I ask. And some people say, I don't want to give you all that. Well, then you can't be on the show because I can't give you that gift. There we go. Okay. So now what I'd like to do is have you each tell us a little bit more. Listen, 12 lines I covered as best I could, Dean, but I didn't tell everything. So, Dean, I'm putting you on speaker view. Everybody can see your punum. You know what that means.
I do know what that means.
So do I, dear. Don't let it fool you. And could you please take about 2 or 3 minutes and tell us a little more about who you are and a little more about emissaries? Welcome, Dean.
Thank you so much. Yes, I'd be happy to talk with you about all of those things. But first, inspired by you, I discovered that today is the 62nd anniversary of the first appearance of the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show.
Get out. How did I miss that? I didn't go to that calendar of music. I used to do music events, and I don't do that anymore. Wow.
Yeah.
How many years? 60 what? 65?
1964, 62 years ago. And I was there in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, as you pointed out, in front of the TV, black and white. And I watched the Beatles for the very first time.
I want to tell you, Dean, my grandma, I had 2 Grandma Roses. Their names were Grandma Rose and Grandma Rose, my mom's and my dad's. And one of my mom's mom used to call us up and she'd say, Ed Solomon, Channel 2, look now, the boys are wearing wigs. I don't know why she never thought it was their real hair.
Right.
Dean, thank you. You get extra gold stars for that today. Now tell us a little bit more about yourself. Thank you for that. I appreciate
You're
it.
welcome.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm a psychologist and author and teacher and speaker with 40 years of clinical experience and really a lifetime of interest in the enduring patterns that make deep impressions on the warm wax of our lives, all the way through our lives. And my little book, Emissaries, may I show it to you? Where
I
is
wish
it?
you would, please.
Oh, there it is. Emissaries, Stories, and Reflections, a collection of 60 short, true stories from my life and lessons I've learned along the way. One can say that I'm at this point over the hill, and it's been an interesting climb. And in the book, I talk about lessons I've learned as I ascended the hill, reached the apex, and now that I'm descending. Here's one of the lessons.
Mhm.
It seems to me that on the first side of the hill, I guided my life by a certain A list: achieve, accomplish, acquire, accumulate, and things I could get. And then I reached the apex of the hill and discovered a mirror. And I thought, wow, now I can acquire a mirror. But in fact, I looked in the mirror and I saw an old and mortal man. And I kind of woke up. And now that I'm descending the hill, learning, continuing to learn lessons, I'm trying to guide my life by a different A list: attention, affection, admiration, acceptance. And these are things I can give. And what I've discovered coincidentally is that these very things are the things I want. And so my new watchword of my life is to receive what you want, you must give what you need. So that's how I'm trying to guide my life now.
Thank
Back
you.
to, you're welcome. Back to Oshkosh for a moment.
Yes.
As I was writing the book, I dropped the bucket down into the well of memory and pulled it up, and all of these vivid stories of my childhood arose in my consciousness, and I kept hearing my mother's voice.
Hmm.
And she kept saying to me, as she did when I was a child, go outside and play.
Yeah,
And
I think we all heard that.
right?
Not
And
your moms, our moms.
um, I think it was mostly to get me out of her hair, but actually it was a very significant piece of advice. And I try to follow it now. We are today confronted with all sorts of bells and whistles and all of that, and they can enchant us and mesmerize us and distract us from what we are, which is palpable, tangible, organic beings on this small planet. And sometimes it's a good idea to get outside in a garden, in the woods. I live out in the desert, and discover who we really are.
Thank you very much. That was lovely. And I want to compliment you on the piece of your emissaries book that you shared with us. The A list, very clever, very
Mhm.
knowing, very insightful, very
Thank you.
creative, Dean. Very,
Thanks.
very lovely. And the way you related it, very erudite, I might say. Very nice, very nicely put. Have you done radio or podcast? You have a wonderful voice, by the way.
Thank you. Yes, I've done a bit of both.
I thought so. Okay, good. Well, let's move on. Dr. Pamela Prince Pyle is here. I'm so happy to see you, Pamela. And I'm
Thank
putting you
you.
on speaker view. Would you take a couple minutes and fill in some blanks for us? Go ahead.
Um, well, it's hard to follow Dr. Dean, and it's interesting because Dr. Dean and Vicki and I have been in the same green room, and they're hard to follow on any given day, including probably today. But just, I would just say, I am a person who is passionate about the things she's called to do. And that's whether that's being a mother. I have 5 children, have 8 grandchildren. The youngest is 4 and the oldest is 21. And even just between medical school and caring for patients, which is hard to believe, but now it's in the decades, so almost reaching 4 decades. It was something that I just loved doing and wanted to serve and do my best. And I feel like that's how I cared for patients. That was the journey that led me to Rwanda and part of a ministry there that I just love, Africa New Life Ministries. And we built a hospital, and all that is fantastic. And then God just kind of out of the blue says, well, I'm going to give you a patient who's going to explain the next part of your life story, which is what led to anticipating heaven. And Vicky has it. And
Must read, must read.
Nice, Vicky.
Truly, I took one English class in college because they made me. I never thought, and it didn't start out writing a book. I just started out exploring the lesson that patient had to share with me in my own life. And then, it just moved along and began writing for papers and magazines and ultimately became a book. But I want to say, Dr. Dean, you described your story as a uphill and downhill. I prefer to look at my story and really your story too, is we have a continual uphill and we never reach old unless we choose old. So we can age and we can change, but we don't ever have to be old. And I don't look at you as old.
I have sound effects. I have sound effects, and once in a while I will insert them in the show, so don't be surprised.
So, Dr. Dean, you are still reaching your apex, and when you go home, I think you're going to be like me. You're going to run and slide under the coffin sideways, and
there you go.
We'll say, I can't say this word here, but it was fun.
Yeah, it was effing.
Listen, it was fun.
Dean and Pamela and Vicky, I look at life as each one of us has a unique quilt. And the patches, the squares are made of different colors, different experiences, different fears, different joys. Mine is different from Pamela's, from Vicky's, from Dean's. They're all different. And Jordan, our engineer on the Voice America Media Empowerment Channel, Jordan, your quilt is different from ours too. And I don't see it as an up or down. I just see it as adding experiences. It's Carole King's birthday, and I think of her song Tapestry. My life has been a tapestry. I think of it a little bit like that. But when my dad passed away, I'll just leave that one there. He loved ties. He was a medical doctor, and he loved to collect ties, and he wore them in his office, and he had maybe 100 ties in the closet. Wow. My beautiful daughter-in-law was going to some kind of an auction at her daughter, my young granddaughter's school, and there was somebody there who was making quilts out of whatever you brought her, and we had enough ties for her to have 3 quilts. They're black fabric on the back, and they are stitched with Dad's ties in the patterns. One for me, one for my sister, one for my mom. When my sister passed, hers went to my mom, and when my mom passed, I got both of them. And they have stood up over the years. So my dad's ties. Now, Dean, you ever heard of a quilt made of a man's ties? Is that
It is such a beautiful idea. And also, thank you both. And I will be thanking Vicky later on.
You will in a minute. I'm ready to get to Vicky. I want you to hold. Dean, quick. What's that thought?
Okay,
Go.
just quickly. I don't know where all of you are, but there is certainly some space that separates us. But that very same space connects us together, just like all these quilts are connected.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. I want to thank you, Pamela. That was lovely. And I hope we'll hear a little more about Rwanda later on. Victoria Vaughn, you didn't have doctor in your bio, and I put together the promo, and she said, but I'm a doctor too. And I said, well, goodness, tell me about it. So I went back and redid everything, and that's why I called this the Prescriptions of Creativity today. Vicky, I'm delighted to have you, and your stories about dating. Oh my goodness gracious. Vicky, I'm putting you on speaker view. Would you please tell us a little more about yourself? It's your turn. Go.
Okay, well, today is my late husband, my prince's birthday. He would have been 87 today, but he relocated to heaven 5 years ago. So I think it's appropriate that I'm on this show. And I have to say, my 2 esteemed creatives, both of these books, this has got all the information you need for end-of-life stories, which we're all going to get to, and this is full of wit and wisdom from Dr. Dean's fascinating life. So I'm very humbled to be with these esteemed colleagues and creatives. My story, is I started dating at 55. I was married 30 years, and we got divorced. It was amicable. And I just recount what I had to go through to finally find my prince, which I did. And we were married for 12 years before he did relocate to heaven 5 years ago. So I'm very, very glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, wait a minute. I want to know about the frog paradigm. I want to know where that you came up with that, and I want to know how many stories are in your book. Come on, give us a little more, Vicky. We want to know more about
Okay. Well, there are 20, I don't know, 10 tadpoles and 9 frogs. And then I talked about the married jerks too. But a tadpole is a baby frog, a frog in the making. And I didn't spend much time with them because I knew they were going to be a frog. And a frog is somebody I did spend time with, but I thought, oh boy, this is not for me. Too many red flags here, too many frog alerts, gotta go. And so I started writing these stories down. I was grieving my husband's passing, and I started writing these stories down because I was thinking I really had to get to a lot of frogs to get to you. And I gave them to a friend of mine, and she said, maybe you ought to publish this. And I thought, oh, okay, fine. But I was very nonchalant about it. But I kind of wish I would have had this book whenever I started dating, because it really would have helped me avoid a lot of heartache and time and pain. And so that's the frog story.
Thank you very much. I had an author on this show decades ago. I've been doing this a long time, and she had a book with the word frog in it as well. It was a dating book. If I could find it in my notes, I don't know, from 15 years ago, I'll look and I'll see. But that's why I was so intrigued that you used that. And the it's just very, very cleverly done. So thank you. So many people can benefit from those stories because frog is just a gentle word for some of the people we've met along the way, and Dean has probably encountered. Dean, just very briefly, you're a psychologist. What is your specialty? What's your focus in terms of demographics or cohorts? Who do you treat?
Well, it all began working with autistic children at Bellevue Hospital in New York City. And then once I got, that was when I was in training. And I also worked with adolescents and then adults. And it kind of expanded over time. And so ultimately, I was working with any age, couples, families.
Okay, thank you very much. So you probably heard some relationship stories. I I had a wonderful therapist in New York, in Long Island. I spent 30 years in Great Neck, if anybody knows where that is. And my therapist was a former director of nursing, and her husband was a psychiatrist, and she went into sex therapy for couples and psychology. And her office, Dean, was in her home, which was, I called it a mini palace. I didn't see the interior, but the office was, she had bookcases floor to ceiling, like 20-foot tall ceilings, and the walls, there was a desk and things from all over the world and paintings and pictures from some of her clients. And she used to help me. Vicky, you're going to love this. She and I used to decide when I was going to break up with somebody, and we would make the plan. And I would say, okay, by the time I come back next Friday, I will have done it. And I'd come up with a script. She didn't write it for me, but she helped me figure out how I wanted to do it so that I would be in control and I could be respectful of me and the person. I didn't have to step on the tadpoles or anything. I'm starved. I can't use the metaphor anymore. It's yours. Anyway, I just wanted to tell you that. Okay, thank you all for the story. So let's go to.
Can I just mention something real quick? Vicky, I want to say to you, what I've read and thought about your book is that it's not about dating, it's about surviving well. And what you have done after your husband's death is learning how to survive well. And your smile is evident of the joy that you have, the promise that you have, but also, you're have made um, something wonderful out of something very, very hard.
Oh, thank you so
Thank
much.
you. And there's so many that face that through death or divorce, betrayal.
We've all been there. I want to move on. Thank you for your kind words, Pamela. You're very, very sweet, and I know it means a lot to Vicky. Let's go to the quotes. I've asked you each for a fictional quote from a movie or a TV show character or a song lyric, and I have a little research here. And Dean, we're going to start with you. You have quoted Jedi Master Qui-Gon Jinn, played by Liam Neeson. Well,
Mm.
speaking to Anakin Annie Skywalker, played by Jake Lloyd, The Phantom Menace 1999 epic space film written and directed by George Lucas. It was the first time he was directed after 22 years of not being a director, so he came back for this. It was the first installment in the prequel trilogy, and it follows Jin and Obi-Wan Kenobi protecting Queen Amidala and discovering young Skywalker while returning the Sith. Let's just leave the facing the return of the Sith. Let me see if there's anything else I want to read to you. No. Here is the quote, 5 words, and let's keep it to about 2 minutes because we have a lot to cover and we're halfway through. So, Dean, the quote you selected is, "Your focus determines your reality." Please relate that to your own creativity. Go.
What I have found is that I can easily become distracted by all sorts of things. And if I then focus on those things, I cannot attend to the task in front of me. So it requires some training of my mind to make that adjustment. So when Qui-Gon Jinn says, always remember, your focus determines your reality, I think that I think of, if I focus on this, then I'm missing everything around me. You know, if you're focusing on 1 degree, there are 359 other degrees in the circle that you're missing. But that's really the only way you can get anything done. And that becomes then your reality. It also is a lesson in humility, because each of the 4 of us, when presented with something, are going to focus on different things. And each of us has our own reality. And that's why we have language, so we can tell each other our stories and how we look at something. And, it can be very fruitful.
Thank you. Very, very interesting. Yes. I find that I'm more forgiving of my focus at this stage of my life. That if I want to go and watch a French or a Swedish detective show where it's a cozy show and I'm interested in how the relationship of the lead detective and his best friends, who are both in love with the wife of the first one who got away from the second one, Vicky, I'm curious, and I'm just going to say to myself, I'm going to take an hour and watch the next episode because that makes me happy. And maybe
Yes.
it'll give me some ideas for my book. And speaking of that, Pamela Prince, Pyle, we are going to your quote. And this is one word, the longest word I've ever had on this show, but it's something that everybody can say without tripping over the words. It's spoken by Mary Poppins, played by the delightful and wonderful Julie Andrews.
Yeah.
Mary Poppins, 1964 Disney live action animated musical fantasy comedy film. Do we have any more genres I want to pack into that? Mary Poppins, directed by Robert Stevenson, produced by Walt Disney, songs written and composed by the Sherman Brothers, screenplay written by Bill Walsh and Don DeGrady, based on P.L. Travers' book series Mary Poppins. It received 13 Oscar nominations, which was a record of any Walt Disney film at the time, including Best Picture, and it won 5. Julie Andrews got Best Actress. It got Best Film Editing, Best Original Music Score, Best Visual Effects, and Best Original Song. Anybody know which song won for Best Original? Anybody? Chim Chimney, Chim Chimney, Chim Chim Cheree. That one for Best Song. It became the highest grossing movie of 1964 in the US. At the time, it was Disney's highest grossing film. And in its theatrical lifetime, it has grossed over $103 million. And here is the one word quote that Pamela wants me to say because she's probably going to sing it if she wants to. Supercalifragilistic. Okay, Pamela, why did you pick this and what does this have to do with your creativity? 2 minutes, go.
Well, it's a great word. It's a made-up word, but it also didn't originate with that film. It originated by a journalist some years previous. And the word in total, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, is in the sense of the movie and in the sense of, I think it was Helen Herman. I don't want to misquote the journalist, but I think that's the name of that person. And it was really a word that is meant to be all things wonderful. And so that's why it's so long. Um, and I forgot that that was my word that I gave you, or even quote, because there is a different version that is an actual true word where it's spelled differently, supercalifragilistic. I
Pamela,
can,
it is in the Oxford English Dictionary. It's
yes,
accepted as a
yes,
word in the English language.
Wow.
yes.
Unbelievable.
Can
Okay.
you read that definition, Red? Because
It says
I don't remember.
extraordinarily good or wonderful. That's what I'm getting. The
Yes.
only word to characterize Kepler's discoveries was, this is an example, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. I'm not seeing the origin quickly here by the journalist you mentioned, but let me see. Let me see. Nope. A usage, it is a compound word made of parts meaning above, beauty, delicate, to atone, educable. Its primary function is cheerful, nonsensical expression. There you go. Origin. Let me see.
Creative.
Yep, we got it. Let me see if I'm getting origin here. No, I'm not seeing anything about. Oh, Helen Herman. It was from a 1931 column by Helen Herman in the Syracuse University Daily Orange. Let's leave it there, okay?
Yeah.
Thank you. Very, very cool. Thank you. I've got you on speaker view, and let me go back to gallery here. Okay, and I'm going to go now to Vicky, and Vicky has sent a quote from music. This is from the song True by the English New Wave band Spandau Ballet.
Uh,
1983, that
Mhm.
means 17 and 27, 26, how many? Yeah, 40 something years ago. Title track from their third studio album. It was written by lead guitarist and principal songwriter Gary Kemp to express his feelings for Altered Images lead singer Claire Grogan. Very interesting. He was influenced musically by Marvin Gaye and Al Green, and lyrically by, this is for you, Dean, by Al Green and the Beatles. The song was number one on the 1983 UK singles chart in April of that year, and it was top 10 in other countries, including the US, their first song to get into the Hot 100. But he wanted to shift the sound of the band to soul and use band member Steve Norman's newfound interest in the saxophone. Interestingly enough, they updated their look. They wore suits for their musical tour, and DJs were so enthusiastic that the song became their next single. Okay, very interesting. And it became their signature hit. Paul Anka covered it. What? And it was used in 16 Candles and 51st Dates. My goodness, famous song. And 6 words. Here's what Vicky is quoting from the song. I know this much is true. Okay, Vicky, where'd you get this? How'd you find it? Go.
Well, I've always loved the song. And part of the theme of my book was be true to yourself. You be you, because you can't be anybody else. Oscar Wilde said, you be yourself, everyone else is taken. Shakespeare said, to thine own self be true. So when recounting my stories, I always advise people, my one takeaway is you be you. Always be truthful. Your integrity is your most important value. Well, for me, it is. And that's where I came up with that. I actually thought I'd sent you a quote from The Wizard of Oz, which is, we're not in Kansas anymore, because
Yes,
I changed it. We're not in high school anymore,
yes. I think you did.
because
That's
that's
a
what you encounter whenever you start dating.
very frequently quoted, and the quote is, I've a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore. So
Right.
absolutely. Thank you very much. Thank you all for the quotes. I want to move ahead. I'm looking at the clock here. We got about 20 minutes left. We have a lot to cover here. So let's go to the creativity statements. Dean, I'm picking number 1 because we've, in a little bit of a way, we've already talked about 4 and 3 and 2. So I'm going with number 1. I'll read a little bit and ask you to unpack it, take a little bit more, and then we'll see what Vicky and Pamela have to say. So
Right.
Dean says, all of my life, I have written things down. I have notes to myself dating back decades. When I moved to passion, I write essays on current events, when by nostalgia, stories from my life, and sadly, when by grief, far too many eulogies. I write all times of the day, but most often, the muse arrives in the dark at night when all is quiet. I get this from a lot of writers. Dean, take about 2 minutes, unpack this, and then we'll quickly go around and see what the ladies have to say. Go.
Uh, the great American writer William Faulkner once wrote, "The past is never dead. It's not even past." And what I've discovered is that all of my memories, those things in the wake of the boat that I'm in as I travel the seas of life, all those memories have brought me to this moment in time and have encouraged me to move forward. What else can I say about
Tell me
this?
about writing at night in the quiet. Do you have a place that you write, a special place? Where is it most quiet for you to write when that muse comes? Are you listening to music? Are you walking around? Are you outside? Are you indoors? Where does that muse come and visit you?
Oh, thank you for asking that. I pretty much always have music on, and I choose music either to match my mood or to put me in a different mood. And
Ah,
sometimes, as a result of listening to the resonance of that music, I begin to write something. It's so strange because at the end of the day, when I'm packing things up here at the computer and all of that, that's when an idea will come. And so generally, I write a first draft of an essay or a story in longhand
Mhm.
on a pad. And then I'm excited to get up the next morning to transcribe that, into a document on the computer and then begin the arduous process of editing, which is probably the hardest thing about writing is
yes.
the editing afterward.
Yes, because you're not sure where you need to start and stop and how often you need to edit and when you're done. I've been working on my novel for 3 years now, and I've decided I need to redevelop two of the main characters. I didn't do enough. And
Okay.
instead of just tweaking words, adverbs and verbs and sentences and pretty things or not pretty things about them, I'm adding more about them throughout the story. It's only about 150 pages, but I couldn't see writing 400 pages. Ladies, just let's focus on writing with music, without music, in the dark, at night, quiet, at the end of the day when the muse hits you. Pamela, any thoughts on that, please?
A couple things. One, I, again, not being a writer, but in this writing process, I found myself, I would wake up in the middle of the night, but it was not to write anything about my book or anything, the project I was working on. It was to write poetry. And it was
Yes.
often felt like a download, like from above, of I was just writing out the words that were clearly placed in my thoughts.
Yep.
And a lot of them, especially initially, were social justice issues and things that I had experienced both here and abroad, and wanting to bring light to that and clarity to that. It's not like you know, I have published some, but I don't publish many of them. But they do bring me joy when I get to write one that's a beautiful story. And
Exactly.
I've had some, um, I call it the Dreamer series, and really focusing on each of us having dreams that we can either deny or tamp down or ignore, but that if we're willing to pursue them, then it leads for a much happier life. And
Thank
then
you.
early morning hours is when I do my typical writing for my book and other sources.
Thank you. Vicky, what about you? Time of day, music or not?
Um, I'm a night owl, and I, like Dr. Dean, like to have music on, either to get me into the mood or get me into another mood. But I'm also a journaler. I've been journaling my whole life. And in fact, a lot of the stories in my book, I went to my journals to find out
Yep.
because I'd kind of forgotten all the details. But I'm glad I did that. But yeah, whenever I get inspired, it's usually at night, and I find that I have to get up and write it down or go to my computer and write it down so that I don't forget it the next day,
Well, if
especially at
anybody
this age.
anybody remembers David Byrne from Talking Heads, he was interviewed on a podcast about 2 years ago, and I found quote. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but basically talks about little beginnings, and he says usually creative people in the music and the arts do that. You write down. He said he'll think of a nonsense word or a melody, and he writes it down, and then he makes a note to himself. Spend 30 minutes on this later. Go
Yeah.
back. He says you
Uh,
can't start from nothing. You've got to start with some. So he calls those the little beginnings. And I'm finding,
Mhm.
Dean, that's what it resonated with me, what you talked about. Let's move on. Pamela, I'm going to your statement number 3. I like this a lot. Pamela says, when I write, I want the reader to experience the room as if they were in it. This includes my five senses that I experienced in the moment. This is a big deal, Pamela. This is an important approach to creativity. So, can you briefly just take us through this and then we'll quickly get a comment from Vicky and Dean? Go ahead, Pamela.
Yes, I just want to say, I wasn't the originator of that thought, but the great novelist Stephen King wrote a book, and anybody that's out there that wants to be a writer, highly recommend it. It's called On Writing,
Yes, I've heard of it.
and it is the first part is his life story, but the second part is how to develop a story. So even if you're recreating something, like in my case, it began with the patient experiences. I had to go back to the memory of what it felt like at the time. And and if you close your eyes long enough and you're resting your brain, it's almost like you can see the little things that you would not have noticed originally. And then the other thing is his ability to tell a sentence without too much flowery adverbs and, adjectives, and um, not overdoing it. And so I highly recommend it for anybody that's interested in writing.
And how does this inform when you write your poetry? Do you think about your experience in people being in that room and feeling the feelings you felt when it came to you, Pamela?
Poetry is more internally influenced than externally influenced, which a story, when I'm relating a story of something I've experienced, it's all the external stimuli that my brain is processing during that time that helps write the story. But poetry is such a personal
Okay. I
experience.
belong to a poetry group at Writer's Digest. I've been doing it for about 3 years, and every Wednesday we get a prompt, a one word or a phrase from the moderator, who's a senior
Mm-hmm.
editor, Robert Lee Brewer. And there are about, 20, 30, 40 of us. I think mostly native English speakers, I can tell from the way the language is used. We
Mm-hmm.
write in different styles. We post our poems. Most of us have gotten away from rhyming a long time ago, and we post our poems and then we give thumbs up and we make comments to each other. It's a very friendly group, very open. It's free. And what's wonderful about it is during the months of April and the month of November, Robert Lee Brewer gives us a daily prompt. So I used to write 3 to 5 poems every day during April and November for the past 3 years, and at least one on every Wednesday the rest of the year. I'm up to about 900 poems.
Man,
My
very
goodness.
productive.
I created a
How
little.
do I join?
I'll send you the link. It's free, and you
Okay.
just create a disq.us account for yourself, which is nothing more than your email, and you can
Mhm,
put a picture on it if you want. And you get permission to go into the group. There's nothing, there's no charge or anything,
mhm.
and no requirements. But it's a very interesting group, and so I understand what you're saying. And I have gone to I've created a format recently. It's the me, myself, I, and we format, and I have a conversation with these 4 parts of me, and it's the first one is as for me, and then the myself as well, according to myself, and the I always is first person, and the we will either put it in French, OUI, we, or to say we need to move on, but they comment on each other. And then Vicky, there's always a paragraph. It's usually about 4 stanzas. There's always a paragraph about a boyfriend. Well, I remember the fourth to the last boyfriend, and boy, could he talk. I could never get a word in edgewise, but he was a great dancer. And then they'll each comment on that. So they always bring up an old boyfriend as part of it. And I have a few fans in the group. Most people don't bother with it, but I have a few fans who love it every week. And they send me comments and they say, wow, look at what the girls did today. So I've created different, I used to do limericks, the story of, what was it? Timmy and Susie, sweet Susie, Susie Doozy, Susie and Timmy, and she was sitting on his lap, and he crashed his dad's red T-Bird into the garage door, and he can't drive anymore for the summer. And their dating exploits. So I had a whole, and I call it the Limericks. WRECKS. But enough about me. Quickly, as far as what Pamela was just talking about, Dean or Victoria, Vicky, anything you want to say? Are you good?
Yeah, I'd like to add something. First of all, this is like playing in a jazz band.
Yeah.
All four of us, kind of doing a riffing back and forth on
Yeah.
That's my
and
show.
and
That's my
and
show.
Red, you've got a band inside yourself
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
me,
do.
myself, I, and we,
Oh, yeah.
and we
Yeah.
all have all these characters and these instruments, these sounds within us. And
Yep.
then when we're talking with one another, we begin to resonate with one another, kind of making
Mhm.
marvelous music.
Mhm.
Okay, my quick comment though is when I was writing and I was working with an editor, and I said to him at one point, "Who's going to be interested in my stories?" And his advice was, "The more personal, the more universal."
Mm.
Mhm.
Ah,
And I
that's a
didn't
great creativity point. That's
absolutely,
great.
yep, yep. And I've had enough feedback from people who've read my book who do not know me, who have said this awakened memories in me and so forth.
I
And
did.
There
there
you
it is.
go.
Yeah.
Thank you. Vicky, anything you want to say about that before I go on to
I,
one from you?
I'm glad to hear about that personal part because I got pretty personal. Lots of skeletons here.
Okay, I'm going to Vicky's creativity statements. I have picked number 2 and number 3. I'm combining them. First, Vicky says, I've been creating vision boards for years, each from a different era of my life. It's
Mhm.
telling that most of what I post happens. Okay.
Mhm.
And number 3, you say, I love to sing. And I find myself making up songs to size up life's events. Taylor Swift has nothing to worry about. I love that.
No.
Adorable. Vicky, I'm putting you back on speaker view. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about what these mean to you? And then I'm looking at the clock. We got about 9 minutes left. We're fine. So then I'll ask Pamela and Dean to
I,
comment.
I,
Vicky, go.
well, I figure, I spend time with those vision boards because you go through magazines and get pictures. And if you can manifest it in your mind, you can make it happen. And also prayer. And then the songs, they're just silly songs. Please don't ask me to do one now.
I
But
won't.
yeah, I still do vision boards. I highly recommend them to anybody who's trying to um, manifest whatever it is they want in their life.
Can
And
you tell us what a vision board, how you would create one? I haven't heard that word in years. So what do you do to make a vision board, Vicky?
Okay, well, I'm very spiritual. I always start with Christ in the middle, and then I surround myself with things that I want to do. For the book, I got Jack Canfield's checks, his first royalty check that he ever got for Chicken Soup for the Soul. I put my name on it. It was for $1,300,000. So hey, that's not bad.
Why not?
I put Kristen Wiig on there because she's going to play me in the Netflix series.
I love her. That's a good choice.
That is really good.
Very, very. And where do you post the vision board? Is it on a refrigerator or is it on a
This-
bulletin board somewhere? Where is it?
This is in my bedroom, and I can look at it every day as I'm getting my makeup on, getting ready for the day.
Yes.
I miss it.
Very interesting. And
Mhm.
okay, we won't ask you to sing, but I would have loved
Thank
to.
you.
But sometimes I sing and it ruins the show, but it doesn't really. Dean, any thoughts about vision boards? And then Pamela, what do you think?
I do. I love the idea. And it brings back a memory of, remember when we were kids using flannel?
Oh yeah,
Pieces of flannel on a flannel board and
right.
stuff.
Very similar
I
concept.
must have missed that class, but go ahead, talk
Okay.
about
Yeah,
it.
it's there.
Well,
I agree.
okay. On sort of on the same subject though, in this life, every front has a back, every top has a bottom, every peak of a mountain has a valley below, every crest of a wave has a trough. So it's always this coincidence of opposites. And I'm thinking of that now with Dr. Victoria speaking about the experience uh, about the ward. Here are the two sentences. We all know the sentence, I have to see it to believe it.
Mhm.
But the opposite of that is, I have to believe it to see it.
Mm.
And it seems to me that in the process of creating the board, you begin with, I have to see it to
Right.
believe
Yes.
it. And then it becomes, I have to believe it to see it. And then it comes alive in a different way.
Yes,
Well put,
exactly.
Dean.
No, that's brilliant.
Pamela, any thoughts about vision boards? Have you ever done them?
I have never done them, and I feel like I've missed out on life because
Pamela, you haven't missed out on life, dear. We know
in
enough.
some ways, if I would describe my life, you ready, aim, shoot. is how it's the normal way to proceed through, anything. I
Well,
am ready to aim.
I think you
And,
have.
and sometimes I'm like, I'm not following the vision. I'm not running my life. My life is running me.
Huh.
So there's a, a beautiful wisdom in focus, going back to what Dean said earlier, is, you know, being able to focus, because sometimes your life running you can feel very exhausting.
It can be, and I have to tell you, Vicky, I don't have a vision board, but I do have some select pictures on my refrigerator with little magnets. And one of my
Mhm.
favorite pictures is when I invited the Chippendale dancers to come to Great Neck and be on my television show for my 101st show. And the show was called, the name of the series was Something to Talk About. And two of the Chippendales, one who looked like Fabio with the long blonde hair and one who was dark hair, and their manager who looked like a young Michael J. Fox, drove them from the Bronx to Great Neck. And we had Bruce's Bakery make a big cake. I have a picture on my fridge. I can send it to all of you. And they're sitting in the chair. They're sitting, and I was about 97 pounds at the time. Don't ask me anymore, please, Dean. And I was like this. I'm all skinny in a little black dress, and they are, and the two guys are standing there. And then I got them to actually, Chippendales, the company, I got them to sponsor my Friday night radio show on WDB. And every Friday night they would call in when they were off stage. I got tickets to go see the show. I was a guest. And they'd call in, and my first question was, did you tell your mother what you do for a living? And the second question was boxers or briefs. That's what I
Oh,
was going to tell you. But there's a picture of me with, so I don't know about vision boards, but that's it. We're almost out of time, and I want to make sure we do our closing. So I'm going to read a couple of quotes to you. I think they will, I hope they'll resonate with all of you. This goes for all of you. Lucy Maud Montgomery, the Canadian author who wrote Anne of Green Gables in 1908. And in chapter 19, which was titled, you're going to love this, Dean, A Concert, a Catastrophe, and a Confession. That was the title of the chapter. And the character says, something just flashes into your mind, so exciting, and you must out with it. This is for you, Pamela, too.
Mhm.
If you stop to think over it, you spoil it all. That's one of my mantras for creativity. Number two, from Rapunzel, voiced by Mandy Moore in the 2010 Tangled 3D computer animated musical adventure fantasy comedy film. When will they stop putting all those genres together? Venture outside your comfort zone. The rewards are worth it. I think you've all lived your life that way. I have. Next quote is from the Rolling Stones, 1969. You can't always get what you want, but if you try, sometimes you'll get what you need. That was the need statement. I think we heard somebody say that. And this is for all of you, including Dean. Glinda, the Good Witch of the North, played by the actress Billy Burke. Wizard of Oz, 1939. The original. You had the power all along, my dear.
Yep.
Okay.
Uh,
And now let me read here. I'm going to dedicate this to you. If you've heard the show all the way through, you know I do this every week, but this is one of my acrostics, and it was the word night shift, one word. So the keywords start with NIGHTSHIFT. I'm looking at the clock. I barely have enough time, but let's do it. This from July 24th, 2024. This is dedicated to the three of you. Never quite really at rest. It's the life of a creative. Going, gripping, gyrating, growling, groaning, growing, highs and lows. That's for you, Dean. Flowing on a mental Mobius strip. The days are the nights are the days again. Shifting off and on into and out of gear, hoping for unique brilliance even once. It's a calling, command, curse, roller coaster. Finding eureka, euphoria, amid frustration, fears. Thus is the life of the creative. And I dedicate that to all of you. And then I have
you.
another one. The one week. This was in the same year, I think 2024. Said write a blank like blank acrostic. So I wrote the following, and the letters are BLANK LIKE You ready? Believe in love. Always. Never kiss a leprechaun in a kayak. Every boat's like a nervous kangaroo. That's for you, Vicky. So I'm going to do our closing now because I think Jordan's telling me we got 2 minutes, and stick around, everybody. We'll talk afterwards. So here we go. Top 10 tips for women in 2014. I kept these notes, Dean, all these years, and the top 10 tips was aspire to be Barbie. The biatch has everything. We'll leave that one alone. You can understand that. Here's my closing. Life is short. Break the rules. Don't we all? Forgive quickly. Dean, I still haven't figured that one out. I don't forgive very quickly at all. Kiss slowly. That I know to be true. Love truly. Yes. Laugh uncontrollably. Laugh with me, everybody. 1, 2, 3. Don't hurt yourself. I don't have laughter insurance. And never, ever regret anything that made you smile. Final words. Work like you don't need the money. Dance like no one's watching. When I taught disco and high heels on a Formica tabletop in a high school cafeteria in Eugene, Oregon, because they wouldn't give us a stage, and I had 250 students teaching line dances. I never fell, but boy, did people watch me dance. Sing like nobody's listening. I tried not to sing, Vicky, but I couldn't help myself. Love like you've never been hurt. We have. Let your heart regroup, regrow, regenerate, and learn to love again. Money talks, chocolate sings, and last but not, I always do that. And last but not least, I stole this line from somebody else years ago. Thank you for turning me on. And I'm going to play the outro music from my new show, which is called Say What? Good News. So dance with me. Say what? Here we go. This was good news.
Good news.
Every weekday morning, live stream.
Say what?
LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. 2 YouTubes.
Good news.
Dance with me. Dean, I like that. Morning coffee.
In my cup.
Make a decaf for me. Scrolling.
Yeah, I've had
enough.
Same old drama.
Same old drama.
Old feed.
Same old feed.
Flip the dial.
Flip that dial.
That's what
we need.
Turn it up, let the bad vibes fade.
Headlines on a brand new
We
need new headlines.
Every laugh is a little upgrade. Hit play.
Hit play.
Say what? We
Talk it out. Lift that mood.
Say what? Good people doing what they do. Say what?
You're good people. Go do some good.
Feel that smile come
Make the world happy.